This is a very important conversation to be having right now. The reason it's important is that Atlanta is at a fork in the road. Atlanta today is a true tale of two cities. On one hand, things are thriving. The headlines are reading, magic is coming to Atlanta. And that amazing things are happening, that entrepreneurship was born here, that such incredible businesses are coming here, calling Atlanta home. That this is a place that is thriving and is a hotbed of innovation. On the flip side, for the third year in a row, I have to get up and say that Atlanta has the highest income inequality gap in the United States. There's a 96% chance that if you're born poor in Atlanta, you die poor in Atlanta. And when this is your city, which so many of you claim it to be, we have to say, not on our watch. So how do you actually tackle such a pressing challenge that has been the challenge of this city for decades and decades and decades? How do you actually tackle that? How do you build off of a legacy of a small group of people getting together and saying that our city can do better, our city can be more equitable? How do you do that? And truth is, one of the ways to do it is to capitalize on the assets that we already have right here in this city. It's very easy to poke at the challenges and the things that aren't going right in Atlanta. But what's more important is to highlight the things that have been here a long, long time, and the people who are doing this work day in, day out. Our panelists represent a part of Atlanta that so often gets ignored: the art and the culture and the beating soul of this city. And if we forget about that, and we let it just be an exported art, then we will always have a divided city that truly doesn't understand where its soul sits. And so today's conversation is an amazing opportunity for us to really talk about art and culture in this city, but to also talk about how it can be utilized to actually make those gaps just a little bit less wide. To actually make this not just a smart city for some people, but to make it a smart city for everyone. Because truth is, you can't be a smart city unless it's an equitable city for everyone. So, I have the distinct pleasure to be having a conversation with these folks tonight, which I know you're going to enjoy. It's going to be a blast. I want to first off thank A3C, who really helped program this entire thing. They really made this conversation come to life. I also want to give it up to the Center for Civil and Human Rights for turning 2 today. Congratulations. As my mother would say, happy returns of the day, so that's good. It's an Indian thing. If you're not you don't get it. I'm really excited to invite these folks up, but what I had them do is we're going to play a theme song that they selected, so you really got to give it up for them, and we're going to see what kind of moves they got as well when they get up on stage. So I'm ready for it. I want to see how Atlanta they really are. Let's see. So first off, actually, coming to us from New York, I'd like to welcome my good friend Toni. Please, if you could give it up for Toni.
One mic. All I need is one mic. That's all I need. All I need is one mic.
All right, so I'm actually going to ask you a question right here, right off the bat. Why'd you choose One Mic by Nas?
I chose One Mic by Nas because One Mic is one of those songs that demonstrates the power of hip-hop, the power of music, the power of poetic tradition. His voice and his delivery penetrates your soul. You can put it on repeat and the song becomes a meditation. It can take you places, it can take you spaces, it can elevate your mind and your spirit and convince you at one moment in time that all you need is one mic to make a difference and make a change.
All right, that was just panelist number 1, Toni Blackman. I actually have no intent to invite anyone else up, so we'll just sit down and have a conversation. That would be good. Next up, very excited to to invite someone up who, if you listen to hip hop, this person has been an influence to this art, has brought a voice to this art, and is someone that, hip hop today would not be what it is without Stic from Dead Prez. So if we can get Stic Man from Dead Prez.
I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? I'm tired of being poor and even worse, I'm black. My stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch.
The same question for you. I have that shirt. I was telling you that. It's amazing. It's, I washed it though, and the gold no longer is there for me. Anyway, I'll talk to you about that later. Yeah. So I want to know, why'd you choose? I mean, look, Changes by Tupac is a song that a lot of people they feel something when they hear that song.
Oh yeah.
What does it make you feel?
Well, I chose this song because I miss Pac. In hip hop, I miss Pac's spirit, his honesty, the roots that he come from, the challenges he was going through, and the direction that we all know he was growing into. You know what I mean? And I think nothing better than be in the Center for Human Rights and Civil Rights, and we talking about hip hop and that connection. And Pac was that connection, in all kind of ways. So, yeah.
There you have it. Thank you. Next up, we have someone who is no stranger to this city, somebody who has, in so many ways, brought a voice back to Atlanta in not only music, but also in talking about social justice on a very, very public and national stage. Can you give it up for my friend Killer Mike, please? All right. So you're the only person on the panel when I said, so what song do you want to come out to? It was like this. Literally like that. Everyone else kind of took their time, got the right answer. You're no stranger to doing that. So I would love to just hear why you chose that song.
You want to name the song or you want me to name it?
I'm good. Look, I'm good. You are so much bigger in real life. I just wanted to say that right now.
Name of that song is Niggas for Life. That's what I am.
That's right. All right.
And what I mean by that is, I was sitting in B103 with Andrew Young. We were in the waiting area. It was me, him, and one of my friends, I think Jerry Clark maybe, and we were talking about the NWA biopic, which hadn't come out yet. We were talking about politically how they had me as engaged politically as Public Enemy. And they have always been slighted. This is before the movie came out and everybody decided they love NWA. This is still I'm a Public Enemy guy, Where honestly there were two sides of the same coin. If you never got mad and outraged, like on the front of this record, I called a case for spitting in a motherfucker's face. You never got to the point of Public Enemy of enlightenment.
Looking at hip hop and looking at social justice through an academic lens, that we can't just have these conversations outside of institutions. We have to start having them inside of institutions. So I'm very excited to invite another friend up, and our last panelist for tonight, David, if you don't mind coming up, please.
Settle, try to never backpedal, but I'm power some got to get a nigga shot. You know what border I avoid, I test the paranoid. I never had to be bad, my mama raised me mad. So what I got is hot, love my life a lot. I'm never sad, just glad, that's why
Thank you for being here. So tell us, why'd you choose that song?
What song is that?
It's Public Enemy.
In the name.
I'm all good. This is look, I get it.
So the name of that song is P.E.'s Anti-Nigga Machine. Okay. And I really dig that song because it speaks to such an important space in hip-hop and in social justice, when there was kind of this voice and this articulation of how it is that you can move in different spaces and liberate a people. But I also thought it was really interesting because, in kind of riffing a little bit off of what Mike has said, is that P.E. and NWA are opposite sides of the same coin. So when you hear Anti-Nigga Machine, a lot of times what folks traditionally try to do is pit one group against another, especially those two big groups at the time. You always hear Public Enemy, Chuck D come out and say, without them you can't have us. So when they're saying Anti-Nigga Machine, they're not talking about pushing against NWA. And actually, if you listen to the lyrics, he talks about his mother, he talks about his father, he talks about people not wanting to hear me at first. So he's talking about an anti-nigger machine as the systematic oppression of black folk and folk who look like him.
Have you heard the song before?
Once or twice.
Okay, all right. Thank you for being here, David. Give it up for our panel tonight.
That's why I think my dad.
The thing is, I don't want this to be like just any other panel. I would really like if we can get as deep as possible into some of these topics that a lot of people skirt around. A lot of the panels like this, that people may mention something real quick and then just move on because it's controversial. But I want you to be able to just be honest about, about what you think and how we can start moving the conversation forward and how we can start looking at these same conversations differently. So I like to actually start off a lot of these types of dialogues with a question of why you do what you do. And it's such an important question because we all have a pretty good familiarity of what you do. But why you do it is the one thing that none of us can ever tell you. It's the one thing that you can teach us. And I'd like to do it in a little bit of a different format, and I'll kick it off. I'd like for one person can say why they do what they do, and I'd love if you tell it through some sort of anecdote or maybe through somebody that has influenced you in your life, to just quickly get into that. And then whoever the next person will be, I would like you to build off of something that the person before said. So, whatever it is, you'd say, oh, when you said this, that made me think of this. Cool?
Gotcha.
All right, perfect. So, starting off with why you do what you do and why these conversations are so important to me personally is, the first time my mother was ever on an airplane was a one-way ticket from New Delhi, India, to Chicago, Illinois, and she was there to go meet my dad, who she had an arranged marriage with, and it was supposed to be her knight in shining armor. And she went over there, and I always say my dad had a small studio apartment with 2 roommates, a cockroach and loneliness. Yeah.
Dang.
And it was tough. And within the... Don't laugh at my parents, Mike.
I'm sorry, bro.
Within 2 weeks of their marriage, my dad, who was trying to go to law school, was beaten on the streets of Chicago, dragged across the street, thrown into the basement of that studio apartment, and my mom found him like that. And after I was born, my parents said, we're going to get out of the United States. We're going to go back to India. We're going to raise our son in India. And then within a few months, they were like, never mind, we're going back to the United States. And when they came, my dad came with a small suitcase. And that suitcase was filled with merchandise that he had collected from different markets. And he unzipped he took the suitcase, took it on a plane, and did his first ever trade show. And when he did his trade show, my mom and I were pacing back and forth waiting for him to come back. Finally, when he came back, he still had the suitcase in his hand. And I was like, damn it. I thought this time was going to be different. And I remember this. There's one moment in your life you always remember. It's the first time you see your parents cry. My dad unzipped the suitcase and there was nothing in it. And he and my mom cried and said, everything's going to be okay. We're going to be all right. And my dad was an entrepreneur. He is an entrepreneur, but he wouldn't call himself that. And so why I do what I do is that I believe that there are people who live in poverty and can fight out of poverty through true entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that people who say, I don't know if poor communities are ready to be entrepreneurs, I say, then you don't know what an entrepreneur is.
Absolutely.
Because poor communities is where entrepreneurship lives.
Absolutely.
So that's why I do what I do. I don't know if that resonated with any of you, but I'd love for y'all to jump in with an anecdote of your own.
Yeah.
I always let the queens.
It hits me really, really hard because I started writing poetry when I was 7, and I started writing poetry because the adults didn't want to answer my questions, and I was seeking answers. And I was telling, what's the sister who works here with the tangerine on? I can't remember, what's her name? After we did a tour of the museum, I did not anticipate being so moved. I think David and I were talking about the space, and it drew up so many things for me, and so I started writing poetry as a way to deal with my pain and my frustration, but also to express my politics. And the people in my community, a working class black community, did not like the idea of a political 8-year-old. And my grandfather, who was from the deep South, Bunkie, Louisiana, Marksville, Shreveport, Louisiana in the building, what? Anybody? No? It made him nervous because he told stories of what happened to him as a black man, and he did not want that to happen to me. So at 9 years old, he sat me down and told me the story of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and Kennedy, and for me, the only theme was death and assassination. So I was programmed at a very early age to be quiet, and if you're gonna talk shit, talk it at home, and that he gave me permission to say whatever I wanted to say directly to him. Nobody else. So what it did liberate me in a sense that there was a man giving me permission to be strong, but not in the world where I needed it most. And so poetry was my only outlet that kept me sane as a sensitive, empathic, overly emotional, dark-skinned black girl impacted by post-slavery trauma to this day, who had mad daddy issues, because daddy had his issues, and my mom did not know how to emote. But I was loved, like that deep country love. So it was very confusing for me, so poetry became my freedom. And so people always, I see people from college, I went to Howard and they laugh like, you still rapping? You still doing what? Like they just think it's cute, like it's funny or it's silly as hell. And they don't understand that this rhyme, this microphone, this one mic is my liberation, it's my freedom. And still, when I'm the most stressed, I freestyle. And I pass that tool on to young people and young artists in hoods around the world. We've talked about my travels here with an 18-year-old sister and why it was so significant to me. And as we talked, I realized like she got me real passionate, like, oh no, you're going to synagogue next time I go. Because the freedom. And what got me there was poetry. What got me there was rap.
Stic, you were saying that something resonated with you when she was talking.
For both of y'all, like, the entrepreneurship, but also how you found your voice in your creative in words. And for me, I had rejected school, right? Because I didn't relate to it. I didn't, it was boring and it was racist and there was a lot of things about it that I was just like, I'm just here wasting my time and energy. And one of my teachers in 9th grade, this is how backwards it was. In 9th grade, I had never heard of Malcolm X, you know what I mean, Black Panther Party, or none of the victorious side of our culture, right? So but I always rapped, right? Mm-hmm. And I was rapping about, I'm better than you and my bars is all this. And she was like, you always rapping, but what is you talking about? And so she gave me a challenge, right? She was like, I'm gonna give you these books. It was like ebony, some brown leather ebony books, right? And she was like, soak that up in my language, I'm saying. I forgot what she said. But she was like, soak that up, and if you can write a rhyme about Black history, I'll let you perform at the first ever Black History Assembly in the racist county I grew up in, Wakulla County. So, long story short, that weekend I get my beats and I'm looking through and I'm learning about Huey Newton and all of these, and it's just explaining everything we've been going through. Why my mom would say, tell insurance man I ain't home, and it's explaining what nigga mean and why we fighting when we hear that, and all of that. And so I poured all of that into that song. And the song ended up being called Black as I Could Get. because that's how I was feeling. And I did the song at the assembly, and the racist principal, Wade Nobles, comes on the stage while I'm spitting and turn my mic off, turn the music off, and just violate. And he was like, you can't say that. And the whole student body was like, we not having it, meleeed up, windows broke, couple jawbones out of place. And then I went outside and it was like this, but it was all of the local news or whatever. It was the churches, the Nation of Islam, all the people from the community had came. And at that moment, I just really wrote the verse to be able to say my other rap, my Big Daddy Kane rap, right? But it put me, you know what I mean? They put me in the middle of this struggle for control over the Black History Assembly by the students in the community. And that's what put me on a path of recognizing what I say on the mic is related to our community struggle, and that you can learn even when you disengage from the school system. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
You can hear that when I just listened to Day School, so
I remember being a young rapper that was very impressed by O'Shea Jackson, a guy named Ice Cube, by Chris Parker, KRS-One. I remember like being like a kid and emulating, you know, the message that Cube and Ren and, you know, people like Chris, them. And even in Atlanta, we had groups like Success and Effect had records like Roll It Up, My Nigga. That was an anti-drug song. You know, and Kilo's first record, Cocaine, was an anti-drug song. So I had seen like a lot of like Southern rappers aspire to be politicized and basically get shitted on like a car when a pigeon flies over. And it was just very difficult to, you know, toward the mid and late 90s to maintain that type of substance and integrity in your music as a Southerner. And when I can remember like a couple years before I got a record deal, I can't remember, my homeboy called me, Muslim homeboy, he said, peace out. I was like, what's up, Doc? He was like, man, you heard these niggas called Dead Prez, cuz? I was like, nah, who is them niggas? And he said, you gotta hear this shit. And we got up, man, and he played this record for me, and it blew my mind because this record made sense of everything I was. Like, I was a highly politicized, highly infatuated with Pan-Africanism and self-reliance, but I was a straight up nigga. Like, I liked partying, I liked drugs, I liked the strip club, I liked all that shit. And for my whole life, it had been either or. Either you're with NWA or you're with PE, but you ain't with both, fat boy. Make a decision. And Stic, what you and M did, if that record, it showed me that RBG, red, black, and green, you know what I'm saying? It could mean everything, and it encompassed all of us in every way. So when you shoot a video that shows an apartment of brothers using the welfare system to their advantage, when you hear fuck they schools, it resonates with you on a different level. And what it did for me was confirm I knew exactly what I was talking about. So when I got my first record deal and Sylvia Rome, you know, leaned over a desk and picked a fucking party rap group over me to put out first, like, I remember leaving with my heart broken. Like, leaving, like, even though the group was my friends, I'm just like, damn, like, it's not gonna work for me. Now, she let me go from Elektra, and I landed on a record label called Sony, which is exactly where they were. And I went in with no expectations because by then I had ended up on a Lyricist Lounge tour promoting my record front with them. And I'd seen them going, commandeer radio stations, say real shit, scare the hell out of black and white people. And I knew that if I kept my message true through and through, it was gonna work. Well, it didn't work for me till 10 years later, now that I'm a part of a group called Run the Jewels. But it works because I never, ever, 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 ever gave up my integrity. I never, like Marshawn Lynch, I saw that brother speak. And he didn't use but 4 words the whole interview, but it was one of the realest interviews ever. Marshawn, they was like, Marshawn, at what point did you realize, you know, you could do this? And he said, you know, at some point it just clicked. Like, if I run through a motherfucker's face, they ain't gonna want that. And if I do it again and again and again, and with rap, that's how I got. So my first record, they're politicized records. By the time I left, whole albums got politicized. By the time I got to where I am now, I understood that I could give people both sides of Michael. I'm gonna probably leave here, drop my daughter off, pick up my wife, and go to the strip club. We don't have any problem letting her or anybody else know that, and she'll be going to college. Some of her classmates will be going to said clubs. I won't be going those anymore. But what it did for me was it showed me that as a whole human being, I could be a revolutionary. I could be a revolutionary on the mic, I could be a revolutionary off the mic, and in matters of entrepreneurship, I learned if you want to say what you want to say, you better learn to feed yourself, fat boy. Right. So what I did was I took what I always loved from the community, and that was being able to respectfully engage with adults like you did with your father. And that was at a barbershop. So my wife and I opened our first barbershop.
I want to get into that barbershop in just a minute. So that is the most professorial look that you could have on a You are thinking of something. Would love just quickly, what resonated with you? Quick. No, you don't have to be quick. That's fine. It's all good. He's so big. So I just want to make sure.
I want to say what a big deal it is to be on stage with these, thought leaders, first of all. I think it's really important. And so
they feel the same about you.
Absolutely.
So
happy to be here.
The reason that I do what I do, by definition, the way that I explain myself is I'm a research psychologist. I look at identity. And it just so happens that the way that I look at identity, I look at black folk as if they're normal, as if they're whole, as if they're healthy, and as if they're functioning adequately. And the reason that I do those things is because I don't know any different. My mother is a clinical psychologist. My father is a statistician. My grandfathers and grandmothers on each side of my family were well educated. I decided to go the reason that I went to Morehouse as an undergrad, I went to Howard University for grad school. I also went to Columbia University for a journalism degree. The reason that I got my doctorate was largely motivated through understanding who my grandfather was. My grandfather was the head of the chemistry department at Norfolk State University, and he was working on his PhD at UVA, University of Virginia. And he had finished all of his coursework except for the defense. He went in, he defended his dissertation, and they said, okay, that's what's up, do it in German. And he was like, what are you talking about? And it was really a fact that they did not want to give him his degree. German was the scientific language of the day, and he did not know German. He could not defend his dissertation in German, and he continued his career working with people at Norfolk State University without a doctorate. And actually, when I finished my doctorate in Howard University, I dedicated that to him, because of the type of work that he put in, not only with respect to the discipline, but with respect to the people. So you look at where it is that he was and why it is he was there. The other portion of that, my mother, when she divorced my father, we moved from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles, and we lived in central L.A. off of La Brea and 21st. I lived around the schoolyard crypts. And she made sure that I was bused to a school in Bel Air and all that kind of stuff. She actually worked in Watts and in Inglewood, so she had a clinic in Inglewood. And the one thing that I always was aware of, not only because of the work that my mother did, but because of where I lived, is that no matter what type of educational status you have or what have you, you are the people. And so the thing that was always important to me was to do work about myself, through myself, with myself, through my people. And one of the things that I think becomes so important is that, Mike actually, helped to teach a class of mine a couple of years ago, and that was the result of me literally bumping into him in the airport and saying, can you teach this class with me? And he was like, that sounds great. I'm recording. I don't know if you know Run the Jewels. No, of course, I know who Mike is and everything. But, he made time for it. And the thing that was so special about him in this class, in that class and teaching, and I'm riffing off of what he talked about in terms of being a whole person and a revolutionary, is that he's a whole person who is distinctive and different than I am. When I finish tonight, I'm gonna go home to my child and to my wife, and the other child, I'll probably watch the draft, fall asleep, wake up, and that's that. I'm not going to a strip club, I'm not smoking weed, I'm not doing anything. But the thing that I think becomes so important is that there's no judgment that's passed. This is my brother, you know what I'm saying? And I think that the reason that I do what I do, to go back, to the beginning statement, is because I don't know any different. That's what my granddaddy taught me, my mama, my daddy. That's what's in me.
Absolutely.
I think it's so powerful to be in this place where we're reminded of our history. We're reminded of the struggle. I mean, all of us got to go walk around and really just think for a second. I want to spend the majority of this conversation applying it to today so that we can be as forward-thinking as possible. But I was hoping, David, that you could just give us a synopsis of one of the most powerful things I heard when we were up there was that when Martin Luther King Jr. died, they had James Brown play a concert just to make sure that violence wouldn't erupt and that people would maintain the peace. Mm-hmm. So music has clearly played a role beyond just entertainment. Historically, and particularly hip hop and soul music and spoken word has played a role throughout in different phases of our history. Can you just give us a recap of why is it important to understand the historical roots of this? Are there historic roots for this? I mean, hip hop is a young art, so you can't just apply it to anything. But I want to know what should we know if we're thinking about the history of this work?
So I'll offer this from an armchair perspective, because I'm a psychologist. I'm not an anthropologist or a historian or anything like that. The perspective that I come from it with is that you have to look at Black culture. So you look at what music means, you look at what the drum means, you look at the codes that enslaved persons utilized in order to be able to be free, in order to be able to be familiar with one another and those kinds of things. You look at the evolution of that music and what it means. It means everything because it's the soul of a people. And so when you're looking at hip hop, so a lot of the research that I've done more recently has looked at the narratives of hip hop artists, right? And so the first person I talked to, because I wanted to do this project, was I talked to Rakim, and I asked him, what do you think is significant here? And he said, I could have rapped about anything. I could have rapped about the car, the chains, and all that kind of stuff, but I got knowledge of self, and it became important to me to be able to communicate those kinds of things. That's powerful. Absolutely. And if you look at what it is that artists offer, they offer a part of themselves, no matter how contrived or not, on wax, right? Proverbial wax now through the MP3 or what have you, right? But I think that what becomes so important for us to do is not to trivialize what it is Young Thug might be saying versus what Dead Prez might be saying versus what Kanye might be saying versus what Mike might be saying. The thing that I think we get caught up in is that versus piece, right? Because it's really kind of this global system that has a way to communicate the soul of a people. That becomes important because, we look at how it is that hip hop is so easily commodified. And certainly you want for people to be able to eat, right? You want for people to be able to express themselves, but you don't want to do it to the detriment and the compromising of that soul. Yeah. And so I think what becomes really important, I was at, I went to go get a haircut today.
Me too.
I hope y'all went to my shop.
Yeah. I'm coming there next, right?
I was immediately escorted out.
Say that. I went to this nondescript place. I won't say where it is, but they're
hair cuttery.
They're filming. They're filming. The next iteration of hip hop barbers acting crazy as hell on television. And what happens is you have people who are pathologized instead of people who are dealing with and negotiating pathology. So what it is that you have in these media spaces now is you've bastardized the art form, you've bastardized the soul. You have women throwing one another over sofas and all this kind of stuff, ripping people's hair out and all this kind of stuff. Women seem to catch the bad end of it all of the time. And it's thought of as being normalized, right? This pathology that we so conveniently embrace one another by, right? It is very much a function of how it is that we've misused and misappropriated what it is that the artistic soul of a people are.
I want to get Toni for you to be able to chime in on, the role of hip hop and music and art in things that are beyond just music. You said, in so many ways, this art form has saved your life, and I think that each of you, in your own right, have said that in a variety of ways, that it defines who you are. Can you talk a little bit about how we should be looking at this type of art form today? How should we be viewing it? Some people say it's dangerous. Some people say it's been labeled over and over and over again. But how do we take the label back and really define it for what it is?
Well, I spent many years trying to take the label back, take away the stigma, and I realized I was more productive when I just focused on my love of hip hop and what hip hop means to me. And so I think what's more important at this stage where we are now is to give less energy to what we perceive as what is taking hip hop down, and to give more energy to what is elevating hip hop music and culture in terms of the business side, in terms of what is teaching these independent artists entrepreneurial skills so that they can sustain and survive. What is giving these artists the deprogramming tools that they need to be less misogynist.
But we don't hear the Dead Prez sound anymore, right? Like we don't hear. I mean, are there artists right now?
Because you don't hear it on mainstream radio does not mean that it does not exist.
Sure. So tell me a little bit about its existence.
I know when I go to Senegal, when those artists, the young artists come up to me, right? The MCs, let's say MCs in their late 20s and 30s, they're asking me, do you know Chuck D? Do you know Dead Prez? So because I know Dead Prez, now they are impressed, right? And so there's the spaces. There are spaces and places in this world, because it doesn't get a mainstream media spotlight, we assume that there's not significance and importance. Abiel Doom from The Last Poets is held up like Martin Luther King in many countries in Africa. When he gets off the plane, the young people, they bow because they know who he is. Now you take him to my workshop in the South Bronx, he's living in Harlem. It's not the same dynamic all the time. And so I just think that what we have to do is give a lot more energy to what is productive and what is growing. How do we create a support system for the independent artists who are making good music that represents who they are, but they have no idea how to put it out? They it's MCs. I coach MCs in my workshop, and these cats are like making albums and releasing them next Tuesday. For what? Who's gonna hear them? And so when you try to talk to them about business and understanding it and them not getting it, marriages are dissolving. You know, there are husbands mad at their wives because she didn't quit, college because she gonna rap. Or, it's all kind of things that are happening. And I think that there's a lot of foundational pieces that are being missed in terms of individual and personal development, in terms of spiritual development. I got like 5 MCs in my camp that haven't done their taxes in 12 years. That don't answer their phone because the furniture store is calling.
But why are those artists? I mean, every time there's a panel like this or a conversation on this, it's always, there is really good art. It's already happening. Does it matter that it's not in the mainstream, or are you saying that it's not getting there because
it
of
does matter
structural
that it's not in the mainstream?
But why isn't it?
It's not just structural things. Well, one of the challenges is that because of the self-hate that continues to persist, and because of the post-slavery trauma, there's a lot of us, the working together piece can be very difficult. The trusting one another can be very challenging. The being able to embrace this person who looks like you, to be able to do business together can be very challenging. It's a test. I mean, I do a lot of work with women in hip hop, and there's some of my hip hop feminist friends who get very upset when there's a lot of talk about sexism in the music industry, and when I say there's not enough talk about internalized oppression and the way women treat one another. And there's a reason, I know from personal experience, that the collective power of women, when you get a bunch of sisters together with an intention and a goal, ain't nobody stopping us.
That's right.
Nobody will stop us. But I tell you, I have tirelessly tried to build that community. Can't keep them together for more than 6 months, yo. Like, and so there's that space of healing, and it's a much more complex question than I have the capacity to respond to. I'm an emotional, creative, right brain being in recovery from a lot right now.
Well, we're thankful that
so
you are.
I would defer the intellectual aspect of that response to one of these brothers, because they're gonna hold me down.
So
I'm not.
I actually do have I have a question for you, Stic. One of the things when you go through the first album, one of the songs that really just kind of catches you off guard is "Be Healthy." And it caught me off guard because there's a lot of pent-up emotion in a lot of the other songs. But you chose to use the platform of your album to talk about health. Can you tell us a little bit, like, why did you choose to do that? What was the impetus behind that?
Right on. Well, Let's Get Free, our first album, to us was going to be our only album. We weren't gonna get to say nothing after that. So, and we knew that, you know what I mean? We was homeless in New York City trying to make that happen, you know? And so we was like, if we could just get to the mic, just the final mix down, it's gonna be the realest shit ever, you know?
It was.
And right on.
Word the fuck up.
And to speak to all the points that you guys have been making, you know what I mean? That's what it was about for us, is to give you the street, to give you the whole person, to give you the psychology behind, where we coming from, to talk about our healing, you know what I mean, in the context of this political paradigm, right? So I know for myself, I became like a rebel within the rebellion, to stay true to what my spirit was telling me. So you get put in these boxes of, like Mike was saying, it's politics, and then there's all these political agendas that's supposed to come through you, right? But we all know that, it's important to pass legislation and policies and all that, but it's also self-work, you know what I mean? And spiritual questions, and we whole beings. So that album for us was to create a holistic, I guess that's the best word, a holistic expression of what would be limited to just a young, black, angry person. But that's why you got songs on there like Happiness.
And Mind Sex.
Yeah. And Mind Sex.
Very
and
important song.
And I had to fight for that. The same way I had to fight for day schools, because they want to say, okay, we get it, you're this, you know what I mean? But what, I don't know, Mind Sex in the middle of, you just burnt the city down, and I'm like, that is the true representation of who we are.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so Be Healthy in specific though, there's so many of our leaders that are represented in this building, who gave their lives for political changes, right? And inside, they personal health was terrible. You know what I mean? And that was not put in context. The choices that we make every day, and so to me, Be Healthy is our most revolutionary song, because that is universal, and you don't gotta wait on the government to do that.
I listened to that song over and over and over again because it was so different than anything I had heard, and it's something that everyone should listen to if you haven't heard.
Good.
One of the other songs that stuck with me, and it's a question I'm going to toss over to you, was Wolves, and not Frank Ocean's track, but Wolves was so interesting to me because it started off with a story. Can you tell it? Do you remember it?
I could paraphrase it.
Okay, if you could paraphrase it, this story is incredible. It's about Native Americans, and I want to toss it over to you for a second.
Nice.
So Chairman O'Malley Ishatella is the person who gave this story in a speech. He is the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party out of St. Petersburg, Florida, and we was young comrades in that movement, and we wanted to share his voice. So the song is Wolves, and in a nutshell, he tells an analogy of how wolf hunters in the Arctic hunt wolves. And what they do, because the wolves they hunt based off blood. They bloodthirsty, right? So they would plant a knife in the ice. And if you heard this, you know I'm butchering the story.
No,
but
you're spot on.
They plant a knife in the ice, and so the wolf come along looking for some food, and he licking and smelling everything, and he start licking on that blade, and then he start tasting that blood. And he's like, yo, it's something around here. And so he keep licking and licking and licking it, and he killing himself licking the blade. And he made the parallel that the drug economy in our communities are the same things. We see some crack, we see some, whatever substance that's allowed to be in the community, right? And we feel like we gonna get something. We gonna get a house. We gonna get a car. White people got a house, why I can't have a house? The white people got a car, why I can't have a car? And we licking the blade, and we think we getting something to eat, and we killing ourselves in the process. So we thought that analogy was like period, spot on, and that's why we shared that first.
You hit on that in Reagan, and so this is a common thread that's coming up. It's common right now in conversations around public policy that we, is it just that there's a drug issue, or is it that it is been planted there, and how do you fix it now, right? Because you have young kids. How do you fix a cycle that has already taken one turn? How do you make sure it doesn't turn again?
I got asked a question one time, like, what was the worst thing? So people say to me, a lot, Mike, you rap about drugs and stuff, but your perspective is always a little different. You always rap about, like, wanting to escape the game. Like, my first album I had, Mama, I Don't Want to Sell Dope No More. I started off a new verse I just dropped a week ago with just saying, I was just praying I could make it out the trap. Because people, we popularize these words and stuff, but, people ask, why do you rap about drugs that way? And I say, it was a kid actually in your class. His dad plays pro ball. Mm-hmm. You remember him? And he said his dad plays for the Heat. He says, Mike, I asked my dad and mom, what was the drug war like? You assume when you grow up with something, everybody knows it. Like when I asked my grandmother, if y'all didn't buy soap, what'd you do? She said, you made potash soap. I asked enough times, she finally showed me, this is how you make soap. Shut up asking me questions, This kid asked me, what was the era like? And I said, why was it so bad? And it hit me for the first time when I was in Dr. Rice's class, Dr. Wall Rice's class, that the worst thing about the drug war was it made us treat one another as masters had treated us. Wow. That was the worst thing about the crack era. It wasn't the fact that our people were getting on cocaine. It wasn't the fact that our children became exploited economically. It was for the first time morally, we treated each other in a master and servitude role, in a vicious and vile way. And we did that because we were allowed to, because you dropped your integrity. And I'm not just talking about the people who were addicts. As a dealer, you lost your integrity. That story that he told about wolves affected me deeply because I realized that the bait that would get left on the blade, or the smell that would get left on the blade, would soon be your own blood. And not only would you be bloodthirsty and killing yourself, other wolves at some point are going to attack you because you've gotten weak. And what I've realized is, when in Reagan, I said, the ballot of the bullets, freedom of some bullshit, will we ever do it big or just keep settling for little shit? As black people, we have settled for little shit far too long. As poor and oppressed people, I get paid to go around and speak in front of white intellectuals and white students and stuff, and I'm often asked, well, what can we do to help? Well, if you're in a white university and you're asking me what you can do to help, you can go out and mentor a child that does not look like you. You can take a black child, you can take a brown child, and it is your job to make sure that your place in this university, your seat is replaced by a child that's not of your culture. They often think I'm telling them that because I want them to simply help the child be educated. I'm actually trying to educate you to get out of your culture and to meet another person from another culture so that you are learning as much as you're giving. You're giving a simple skill of reading, writing, and arithmetic and helping an already talented child make it into a university. But what you're getting is compassion and empathy and understanding and the ability to organize and help others. I tell them that that's your job. Now, when I get in the real big rooms, like my management company and the real rich white folks, God bless their soul, and they say, well, Michael, what can we do? Because we not finna go to the hood and mentor no child. And I tell them straight faces, I'm telling you now, if you want to help black people, then take your scholarships and send a black child to an historically black college or university. That's what you can do. And I don't mean donate money to Morehouse and Spelman. I mean find a Tiba, find a Kiba, find LaQuan, find LaShawn, find a kid that's marginal with a C+ or a B-.
Yeah.
Sit down with their parents and say, we're going to help this kid get their grades up the last 2 years of school, and their payment for their college is underwritten by me. Prove it, or stop asking me what the fuck to do. That is honestly what I tell people.
Yeah, but for decades now, right? This is not a new conversation. You're saying it now. You said it before, right? I'm really curious, right? What is the role of policy here, right? At the end of the day, you also have, I think one of the big questions becomes, how do we actually start to change policy rather than us always having to say, all right, you do one, you do one, you do one, you do one. When does policy
you don't change
actually
policy
start?
without people.
That's right.
You know, Fred Hampton made you know that. If you're not educating the proletariat, no policy will work. Yeah. You know, they did policy after civil rights. They gave grants. The grants went to the greedy and never made it to the poor. They did policy before. They did a voters' right. They did a voters' right bill in 1965. It got gutted 5 years ago. Nobody, including our president, said anything about it. Policy never saved us. The people saved us. The people determine policy. The people control. I told some of my friends, man, if you want to see policy change with the way police handle black children, black people need to pull out of both political parties. And they need to sit and wait till the tightest of races in ran, and when everybody come begging to your church, nay-naying and doing the dance, what do you have for me? What do you have for me now? Well, we supported this mayor. We don't like him. And watch how quickly that mayor goes. And when the mayor goes, watch how quickly that police chief goes. You do that 2 elections, watch how the treatment of your children changes. You are not going to control policy if you don't control your own dollar, if you don't control your own vote, if you don't control your own thinking. Policy matters not without an educated proletariat.
That's true, but we do have record low voter turnouts that are, we don't have.
That's purposeful. That ain't by chance.
I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying at the end of the day, if we really want to shift policy, right, we have to actually have people like you running for office, people like you running for office, people like you running for office. But what happens is that a lot of times you have the passion is here, the drive is here, the knowledge of how to actually change this is here. But when we yell about a lot of these things, the district attorney stays the same. The attorney general stays the same. So my curiosity is, how do we actually activate a base of people to target actual policies are not going to be changed by just the president of the United States, right? And I'm not trying to call you on that, right? Like my purpose on this is that I feel that hip hop artists always come out during presidentials, but when that goes away, the in-between and the local elections, we had a 14% voter turnout in our last mayoral.
Yeah, but that's not by mistake. That's purposeful. Let's be honest. They don't the Democrats only want you to come out to vote when they're afraid they're gonna lose. If they get afraid they're gonna lose, they're gonna come knocking on your door. If they get afraid, but if they're pretty sure they're gonna win the election, you're gonna never get talked to. They ain't gonna visit your church. They're not gonna nay. The Republicans, God bless their soul, and got hijacked by a bunch of racist Christians. They could be actually making money. Making segue into the African American community if they dropped the BS racism and told them we're going to kill the drug war and we're finally going to engage black men around economics and around entrepreneurship. So again, we can line up all the policy. We can invite rappers to come out and shuck, jive, and dance for everybody. But if we aren't determined to make rappers the merchant class, meaning Peter Street has 4 buildings that's owned by rappers. That's what you need to be celebrating on Black History Month. Like you can't be talking, it can't remain this old thing because the people have seen policy not work, but we have lost the west side of Atlanta. Like think about that. Think about what we're saying. We're telling people to believe in policy, and the Bluff never ever got grant money until white people decided they like the Bluff. Now that may not be the truth of the story, but that's what it looked like when your ass lived in the Bluff. You know? So again, what are we as Atlantans going to do to educate poor people on the rights that they have to enforce the current policy?
Or
That's what
more policy does nothing.
But so that's what I'm wondering is if we don't have folks actually going out and
You're
and
doing a good
voting,
job, though,
No,
I will
no,
say.
I'm not. Look,
don't want
I've grown very comfortable with you. It's great. I'm not. Here's why I'm trying to drive this home. Right. I think we've gotten so caught up with a number of moments, right, that we're forgetting all these movements that actually took place. Took people fight. It took Martin Luther King had to be giving calls to LBJ. You had to actually be tapped in to make sure that McGovern was ready for what was about to come. And we've lost a sense of organizing, right? Like, because what happens now is that we go into a neighborhood and we say, you voting for Bernie or Hillary? If you're voting for Donald, you're racist. But are you voting for Bernie or Hillary? And that's become our form of organizing. We've stopped organizing and asking and activating people around actually being able to shift policy. Is that not?
I think, you know, for me, and I think many other people echo, like, people are past that. Like, that's just what they put on CNN and all that. You know what I mean? That's the conversation. But in everyday life, people is like, it's all the same shit every time.
Yeah.
So I think what's happening that's not on TV, that's not on the radio, but that is important and real, is people are figuring out how to navigate forward in a whole nother paradigm. Like the way I phrase it is, you know, is changing your BS, right? Your belief system. Like, you know what I mean? You know, getting rid of the BS, right? Because we believe in this shit. That's why we keep supporting it. That's why it keeps working. We keep investing, and we say, well, this is all we got, or this is the lesser evil, or this whatever, because we believe in that paradigm. But hopefully, and I'm trying to raise revolutionaries, you know, that can think outside of those boxes, right? And so, because what we talking about ultimately is we're not looking at, like a psychologist, you know, we're not looking at the human condition. You know, we're not looking at why is the politics corrupt. We're not looking at why does the policy gotta keep being amended? Why are we fighting for human rights and civil rights?
Ridiculous.
And we keep putting Band-Aids on shit, you know, and all that. You know, why is that happening? There's a deeper battlefield, right? That I think the evolution of our consciousness is where we're going to say, well, how can we get to the nitty gritty?
It seems like, I think there's a fear, right? So if you say the word feminist, you're now polarized, right? Even though feminism, it means just making sure that women are treated just as equally as a man. If you say something that doesn't vibe with someone, the easiest way to close out that conversation is you're a racist, or you're a sexist, or you're this. And
that's because that's more the BS though. That's the BS. All of them titles and boxes and labels and all that is what it's like programs. You know what I mean? It's just if you got Internet Explorer, that is gonna work. You cut it on and it's gonna do what it do. You know, if you got Google Chrome, it's gonna do what it do. You know what I mean? But you still on that program. You gonna see what it show you.
Yeah, I think
so. Outside of, just to finish the point, I think the first human right is the right to awaken. The right to just awaken for yourself. And I think if we're not talking about that, then we talking about politics, which is other people's agendas and not our inner calling freedom. And, you know, so I just want to put that on tape.
I think that's really important. And I think along those lines, we've got to look at what it is that systematized oppression hegemony looks like, right? Because it looks like these kind of retarded schemas that people pick. So I'm gonna assume this, or I'm gonna assume that. We have to understand that the condition of folk, to where we're put in a place where we are declaring civil and human rights, that's absurd on its face.
Right. Yeah.
Right? To say that I have the right to be me, that's fucked up. And so I think that, I mean, for you to say, I mean, for you to walk through here and see images that say, I am a man, for us to fast forward and for us to have to say things like Black Lives Matter, that's ridiculous. And so it becomes so important for us to recognize how it is that we are intimately interconnected with one another first, and look at how it is that we have to respect and deal with ourselves and deal with the people first. So we're talking about policy, but we talk about policy and we make it sexy and mix it with kind of these mass media understandings or representations of what people are supposed to do and how we're supposed to be.
Wait,
One second. Wait 1 second. The thing that I think becomes so important, though, is the hard work and the dedication is being in the community. The hard work and the dedication oftentimes isn't seen. So what was said up front about hip hop and rap can be said about humanity writ large. So there's a lot of garbage that we can talk about. But what are the healthy things that become important for us to focus on? Where are the assets? And I think that what becomes important is for us to, we're obviously not going to use one best way or one best system, right? That's kind of this hegemonic ruler in the first place, is that, okay, well, we can't all coexist because I'm a man, you're a woman, you're going to the strip club, I'm not, you're an artist and I'm not, or you stepped out of school and I didn't, I committed myself to school. There's all of this kind of polarity that's forced on us to be a part of. And what becomes important for us to recognize is we have to push that at arm's distance. We have to be about, and this is what is so revolutionary and gangster about Martin Luther King Jr., is you have to be about love. When you're talking about how it is that you're interacting with one another, how do you drill down to that real core of love? And it sounds kind of frilly and pie in the sky and all that kind of stuff because the bullshit, right, is, I'm sorry, the BS, right? So the BS has conditioned us in such a way to where if I say I love my brother here, it's not as embraced, or we're told that black men don't say that we love one another. Well, of course we love one another, and we tell one another that. Black men aren't in schools with their kids. Well, there's a study that just came out that says what I already know, that black men are actually involved at a higher rate with their children than their counterparts. So what becomes important is for us to be able to look at kind of data, turn it on its ear, and really engage the people in the community in ways that make policy work for us instead of us working for policy.
And that polarity that you speak of is part of what has slowed down hip-hop's ability to actually unify and be a cohesive force, powerful force. Because what happens is you have these people that rap about that feeling like they can't be in the same cipher with those people that rap about that.
That's right.
And so these people that rap with this style who are from this state
That's
in
right.
this city can't rap with these people who are from this state in this city because they rap differently. And so there's this lie that comes up that because we are different, have different flows, different styles, or different accents, or have different content, that we are somehow different with regard to hip-hop. Building with cats who just got out of college.
That's right.
Building with cats who were white skateboarders with purple hair. Building with cats who were like eating Ital stew, right? And it's in the same, with women, young women, right? And some of those women are Butch Dykes, like in this same cipher. And then you got the Christian woman with her Bible spitting hot fire, right? And I've seen and I've witnessed this, but that separation and that divisiveness, and then the stories we begin to tell ourselves, it just chips away at what hip-hop could be in terms of its true power.
So how do we in terms of, you know, hitting on the diversity of making sure that hip-hop is an inclusive art, how do we make sure that next time we have a panel like this, that there are 3 Tonys and 1 male?
Invite them.
What is? And it's not that they weren't. Wait.
Yeah, you
wait.
invite them.
That's easy to. We did, right? Like that's not a. What happens is that there is, and I'm really interested because I remember you said it's important for me to vocalize the feminine side of hip hop, and I think what's happening is that it is such a male-dominated.
I call bullshit on that.
So call me on it.
Yeah,
that's fine.
man, I get, like, white people, y'all got a whole set of problems that's not ours. God bless y'all. And I'm not saying everything is right with black people, but most of our families are ran from a matriarchal standpoint. You don't have to tell me to respect women. I have known to respect women since my grandma smacked me in the mouth for not respecting women. I've known to respect women since my wife walked up to a door and closed her arms. And like, I'm not open. I've known to respect women. So when I spend over $1,000, I got to sit down with my business partner, who's my wife. I know how to respect women because the choir director, the leader of the church, my preachers, was the woman who was a photographer. Everybody of power in my black boy life to my adulthood has been a woman or closely associated with one. Queen Latifah, MC Light, Boss, Trina, Little Kim, Foxy Brown, I have all represented in my lifetime some raw-ass rappers that I better queue up before I get on the song with. They are respected. They are feared. Like, you don't find nobody trying to go run at this Nicki Minaj. You don't know about, oh man, oh she whack, I'm gonna challenge her in a rap. You might say something about her appearance. You might say something about she materialistic, but you ain't gonna try her. You see what I'm saying? See, man, rap doesn't have the best female versus male category. We not like the Oscars. If that woman is better than you, oh, she the rawest rapper in the room. So I just got to give hip-hop the credit. We progress way further than the world on this treat women equal. Even when you hear rappers say, oh, I go to the strip club. Rappers ain't going to strip clubs demanding, demeaning no women. They going paying attribute to a goddess of a woman they admire. I'm finna tell you the honest to God truth. Ain't none of them men in there dominate none of the women. The women are DOA, the women, like, and somebody thought I was playing. I put up something about real estate investing in Atlanta, how cheap houses are. The one person that popped up on my timeline to say, yeah, Mike, I bought a $30,000 house and I charged $800 a month, was a friend and a stripper that I know in the Blue Flame that's cool with my wife. She was the only person that had taken my advice. So when you start thinking about, oh, dancers, oh, women of a lower rung, let me tell y'all, man, women are a lot more smart and a lot more intuitive than we give them credit for.
And that's not what I'm saying.
I know. But what I'm saying is, I'm not going to allow you to give my art form the same rep you give Wall Street. Wall Street got a problem with feminization. Wall Street has a problem with women and misogyny. We don't have no problem with that. We a bunch of men, we talk shit, but name me another musical genre where a guy makes a I'm a badass record and invites a woman to demean him on.
So female rappers make just as much as male rappers?
Hold on. Nicki Minaj, I would argue, makes more.
No, I'm just
Hold on. Good rappers with a huge commercial push from them make money, everybody else struggle.
But Queen Latifah was not making as much money as a male artist at the time.
No, what I'm saying is, do female typists make as much money? Do female leads of museums make as much money?
Yeah.
No, so that problem ain't a hip-hop problem, it's still a general world problem.
Yeah, I think that when we talk about the male-female problem in hip-hop, we have to talk about the male-female problem in our world.
Like, who runs out there?
The amount of money a woman makes compared to $1 that a man makes, and I think it's really, really important to not put that on rap.
Yeah, they always give us their bullshit.
Keep it in the context of
we don't know how to treat women. Let's put it on the black guys.
But there's some people that have questions, and we're supposed to move to that space.
Today, the Congress, Democrats sat in for a gun control bill. As I walked around this beautiful center, I noticed the lack of any protection and the number of deaths taken by our people in a fight for just human and equal rights. What do you, any of you can take this, Mike, anybody, but what do you guys think about that juxtaposition between being here tonight, seeing a nonviolent protest from 30, 40 years ago, we still having the same fight today, and the Congress trying to say, hey, disarm. Oh, and by the way, run for office, please.
If y'all don't mind, I'll take this one. I'm fiercely progressive. I think that all people in this room are equal and exceptional. I think that all of us have the human capacity to do and build a better system than we have now. With that said, as an African-American man who's grown up in America, who was brought here simply in terms of generations before me was to be labor, who has only 50 to 60 years into real supposed freedom, and just seeing rollbacks like the 1965 Voters' Rights Act, my personal belief that is any African-American in this room or any other room wishes to disarm themselves, you are a fool. You are an absolute goddamn fool. Now, moving right past African Americans. This country was started because of guerrilla warfare. The first person that died in the Revolutionary Army in the Boston Massacre was a man named Crispus Attucks. I say that because I was with a New York Times reporter 2 days ago. He was one of the most brilliant men I ever known, but they didn't teach him that in elementary school. So the first person to die on the behalf of this rebellious country and to win a guerrilla warfare against a tyrannical British government was a black man. And every other guerrilla fighter after that, white, Scott, don't matter to me if they was Irish, German, no matter what, I thank them for using their long rifles, hiding behind the trees, and knocking those red coats' hat off. Because I truly believe that as a black man in this day and time, I work from a position of power by being in this country. I get 2 questions wherever I land in the world from little black boys. Can you own a gun for real? And do you know Gucci Man? And I'm going to tell you what's not so funny about that. And I'm going to be very quick. Many of these black boys that I'm talking to are only in these countries because they are refugees. They're from places like the Sudan, they're from places like Nigeria, they're from places like the Middle East, and they're from places where their families have been slaughtered and brutally handled by members of government. So people who try to tell me, well, why do you want guns? It's going to hurt more people. The government will protect you. I just walked through 2 displays where the government was murdering, dragging, and killing my grandmother's age. My grandmother's age. So as far as me and my people, I'm going to be strapped to the T till the day I die or they kill me. I tell you this, and if you follow me, you know I tell you a few simple things once or twice a week. Eat, learn how to grow your own food, learn how to hunt and slaughter your own animals, learn how to fish farm, and learn how to train and shoot. Because if government never comes to kick in your door and conspiracy theorists are wrong, I can guarantee you in your lifetime you're going to go without lice and power for 2 days. I guarantee you in your lifetime you're going to be so hungry that if you had a fish, you're going to wish you knew how to gut and cook it. I'm going to guarantee you in your lifetime you're going to want strawberries. You know what I mean? So I'm simply saying to people, every tool that is at my disposal for freedom, justice, and equality, I use the voting booth and I use the bullet. Nothing is going to interfere with my right to live here and be a human. Nothing is going to interfere with my ability to live long, see my grandchildren, and die. That's why I do my 15 push-ups in the morning and 15 after that, trying to catch up with this brother, because I don't want to self-destruct myself. But I'm telling black people, please, please respectfully disagree with your leaders. I love John Lewis. He has bodyguards. You don't. You understand what I'm telling you? There's a reason you don't see terrorist attacks on biker gangs. There's a reason you ain't seeing nobody going to shoot up a Crip set. You understand what I'm saying? People don't want to fight anything that'll fight back. I just seen a picture of a lion attacking a zebra and looking at a porcupine puzzle because nobody want to lose some blood trying to take some. So I'm going to just simply say, as for me and my family, oh boy, we strapped like a new pair of tennis shoes.
All right. Next question. Who's next?
I have a question regarding the lack of organization. Going back to the reason why we're still so politicized and what seemed like a disconnect with policy and the people. My question, I guess, would be directed towards, I'd ask David this, and possibly Mike. What do you suggest that we do? I think our moderator was, if I understood you correctly, was alluding to the fact that when we go into the voting booth, no matter what we do, we still have maybe 2 or 3 options to choose from. The real change is happening on the ground, but we're not getting that passion into the voting booth. How do we erase those incumbents? I think is what you're alluding to.
That's correct.
How do we get those passionate people to understand there is a greater good in you, we all need you as a community, can we please get you on the ballot box? Do you have any suggestions from a grassroots level as to how do we get those people to the ballot box?
So David, would you be able to take that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, so thank you for it. I think the most effective way to do that is being there. So I think that what happens a lot is we talk about policy and we divorce it from the hard work of having boots on the ground in the communities, right? And so I think the more of us who move beyond rhetoric and really are about the business of being with the people, you can easily say, okay, well, I want Mike to run for office, right? And I need Stic to be over healthcare, and I need the sister to be over this kind of understanding of what post-traumatic slave syndrome looks like. I think that once we're on the ground and we see what one another needs, that's where real conversation happens. What happens so often, though, is you get sound bites. We are conditioned to not do the heavy lifting and the hard work. We're conditioned to go home and watch a basketball game, or we're conditioned to, have fun and let out a little let out a little bit, right? Let out a little steam and all that kind of stuff. But we're not conditioned to do the work, and so freedom is not free, right? And freedom means that we have conversations with you all, and we're on a panel and all that kind of stuff. But every single person on this panel here today is putting in work. The question then becomes, are you? And that's a really hard question to ask, right? Are you putting in the work? Are you in the community? Are you meeting with the people, right? If you're going to the strip club, are you giving them fiscal advice? You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's not, it sounds funny. It sounds funny and is all that, but that's real talk. You know what I'm saying? And
I'd like to say this too, because we joke and we're anecdotal, but the Blue Flame is a black-owned business. Stop. When Martin was broke, when they needed to do marches in Atlanta, when Atlanta told a young Martin Luther King, man, get the hell out of here, go to Alabama. Martin came up with these ideas he had formed for Regan Gandhi. They say, boy, we okay. Take that thing over to Birmingham.
That's right.
The people that supported him were the people that owned those type of lounges. It was the people who owned the juke joints. It was the people that owned the shot houses. So we laugh and joke, but these are the people that are on the underbelly. When you look at Hidden Colors, that has exposed a whole generation of children like my daughter to the fact that black people on every continent in here, and they didn't get there through slavery, that was put together by a former pimp who changed his life. So we laugh and joke. The first 4 mayors of Atlanta were members of the Free and Rowdy Party, which represented the bordellos, the whorehouses, and the clubs that people used to stop through when this thing was terminus. Yeah, the Free and Rowdy Party, Snake Nation. Snake Nation is a town that's now known as, what's the black artsy district we got over there? Yeah, that used to be Snake Nation. So even your old mayors, when it was an all-white city, they made their money off people of the night. So I need you to know, when you're talking about these people, you're talking still about the community.
That's right.
When you say, oh, I'm a feminist, I'm for women's power. What's more powerful than I will use my body in the way that I see fit? I will take my money, I will reinvest in this community, I will provide affordable housing for another woman like me so she don't have to use her body. But we want our revolution to be clean.
That's right.
Oh, I grew my hair, I wore a t-shirt, red, black, and green, everything is clean. Right? Then you put up one picture that's vaguely sexual. Oh, sister, what are you doing, sister? You are living a whole human being. You are proud to be black and you are sexual. I can't control your sexuality or cage it because it makes me uncomfortable. My wife said to me the other night after we watched Bill Maher's talk about how extremists are really just nerdy guys who could never get none. She opened up a book with a sister in it that was fully clothed Muslim versus a sister who was from Eastern Africa that was Muslim. She said, why do the sisters in Africa wear colors? She said, but it's so oppressive. I said, because one outfit is about men keeping women away from their eyesight because they can't control themselves. The other outfit is about honoring what you say the Quran says in terms of covering yourself. Two different systems. Two different systems. So for me, I just encourage people to drop your team, drop your label, and engage other human beings where you meet them at, not where you want them to be. Where you meet them at. The second thing, and I'm out. The reason kids ask me, if I know Gucci, man, because it tripped me the fuck out by the time I got to the third country. I'm like, why do they keep asking about Gucci? You know what I mean? When you go to the country, you see pictures of Ice Cube, Public Enemy, Dead Prez. I'm like, why do these kids asking about Gucci? And I used to say, why do kids want to rap? And I realized it. Rappers, as black men, represent the freedom to say anything you want. And as a black man, globally, using your voice usually ends in murder. So for me, what I had to realize is even with Guwap, even in your rich homies, all other people you want to try to criticize, your thugs, in these people, children see a freedom to express themselves. So your revolutionary is really right there already, just waiting for you to give them a bound of books about African Americans and challenge them to write a rook about it, write a rap about it. That's it.
Let me say this real quick.
We have time for one more question.
Let me get Stic in real quick. He had one comment that he wanted to make.
It was just, I was just bouncing in the conversation, but I thought one point I wanted to make about gun rights, you know, is we have to distinguish between violence. Coming to hit you upside the head, right? That's violence, right?
Absolutely.
If you break their wrist, is that violence too?
No, sir.
That's a different perspective, you
Absolutely.
know what I mean? So I think we want to live in a world that we cultivated enough where we can be in harmony, right?
Absolutely.
And we just want to use common sense, you know, as it relates to immediate threats, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And you know, so I wanted to add that. I think that was that equation. What Sister was saying about policy, you know, how do we engage people and get people more into voting and or political process, I guess. I think and we don't need the more we believe we need them group of people that call themselves a government, right? And we realize that we are the people. Absolutely. We are the government. Absolutely. Real talk. Absolutely. We can invent and create everything that we need, and you know what I mean? It's like, that's what I think, if you're not talking about moving in that direction, is the same old bullshit.
That's exactly what I'm scared. Like, why don't you got, like, a black man just said, you are the government, and this is what y'all did. Like, think about it. You're an American. You're an American. The first thing you learn in your preamble and your Bill of Rights and Constitution, this is a republic of the what? People. Of the what? People. This is a republic of the what? People. By and for the who? People. By and for the who? People. Now, why just the black people saying this? Think about what I'm saying to you. We are a government of the what? A republic of the what? So, what he's saying makes all the sense in the world. I said to a reporter, the same New York Times guy, he said, so what's your real feel about politics, Mike? Because I don't get if you're a militant or if you're like Martin or what. I said, really, it boils down to this. Government should fear the people and not the other way around. Your government has no fear of you. Your government has no fear of you. The Democratic National Committee showed you they had no fear of you.
But do they have no fear because we're not showing up?
They have no fear because you're not burning shit down.
So
when we go to front, no,
we're saying this in the same house that of MLK. We got a picture of Mahatma Gandhi.
I'm not saying they don't.
I'm just saying the militant attitude of look, the way to fix this is to burn shit down.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So then,
what I'm saying is, when friends didn't want Uber, they cab drivers went to the middle of town, stopped the cars, and got out. When we don't want Uber, we go to politicians and cry. In France, when they sick of the government, they burn shit down. I saw a cop beating the hell out of a kid on a soccer field for running across screaming. Now in America, everybody would pull out the camera. Oh man, this is so messed up. Look at what they're doing to that guy. The soccer players start kicking the cops' ass. You get what I'm saying? See, America, you used to be a country. You once were a beautiful country. You once were a country that told other countries, we will not suffer under your imperialism. We once told you that bring your sick, you're shut out, and we will give everyone equal opportunity. At some point, you stop believing your own BS. And because you don't make yourself live up to it, you think it's okay for other people not to too. Because you're apathetic and lazy and you don't vote because you make enough money, you encourage poor people to be apathetic and lazy because they make no money. But if you ever really engaged in this system, if you ever really read the Constitution and demanded what they promised you, you would want to go to City Hall tomorrow and burn that motherfucker down. and I'm not playing. Think about the Atlanta public school system. Over 80% of your schools are named for African-American educators and emancipators, and graduating less than 50% of students.
But City Hall doesn't actually control
I'm
your
not
public
saying they
school
do,
system.
but I'm saying if you burn it down, somebody will figure out something to do.
Let me say this.
That's one way to look at it.
I think
Fellas,
one of the
we have
things,
time for one last question.
I want to riff off of this real quick. All right, real quick. So I think the thing that becomes important, though, is also the fact that I think a lot of things that are being said, we're looking at this exclusive exceptionalism, right? And so one of the things that you were asking is, well, how do we change this? We have to stop being scared of ourselves.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one of the things is it takes hard work to go in the community because we're scared of ourselves. Once we get to a certain plateau, we disengage from who the people are. One of the things that I said early, and I didn't come all the way around, but I was very adamant about the fact of saying where it is that I grew up in Los Angeles, 21st and La Brea, and the Crips were there, right? And one of the reasons that I do and am the way that I am is because of my granddaddy, all that kind of stuff. But they were a part of my community.
Absolutely.
I said the part of me being, bused to Bel Air and all that kind of stuff, not because I wanted to be elitist and communicate that to you all, but those gangsters made sure that I was okay. They made sure that I wasn't jumped into the gang. They made sure that I was a part of that community and I was going to carry along that banner. So the work that I do and the reason that I go into those communities is because that's who I am.
Absolutely.
And so what we've been, again, and I hate to use this word over and over again, but I'm a psychologist, right? We've got to look at what the conditioning looks like.
Absolutely.
What are we settling for? We're settling for small shit.
Absolutely.
Right? That's what Mike said. We're settling for small shit. So how is it that we can get bigger shit? Well, the thing is we have to not be afraid of one another and believe in one another.
Absolutely.
And when we're talking about these things that sound ethereal and all that kind of stuff, like love, we really have to invest in that.
Yep.
But that takes hard work. It takes commitment. It takes not just saying, I wish this candidate was better this year. Go out and find one. Find the assets that are in our community. They are there. They're right here. They're right here as well. But we've got to believe in one another. So I think that in many instances, we do need to burn shit down, right? But I think that that's not the only solution. It's a multi-pronged approach to how it is that we take our country back and believe in ourselves.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
One last question.
Hi, I know that a lot of you on stage all work with children. I've heard you all say that, and I know that there's a lot of people in this room that work with children, but I'm pretty sure there's one kid in here right now. And I know I'm 36, and I feel like being a grown-up has never seemed so young. Like a lot of people my age don't necessarily feel like grown-ups. We don't feel like it's our place to talk to teenagers. So my question is the problem in terms of communication generationally right now that they're not listening or that we're not talking to them?
No, I think, well, my son is here, so maybe that's two.
My daughter in here.
That's three.
Three.
I'm here. Hi.
I think action, right? There's a book by, it's called The Conscious Parent by Shefali Sabari, PhD. And that speaks to that, like the role of engaging youth, right, in a way, right? So, and I would say it even goes to engaging the government or anything we've been talking about. We're skipping over engaging self. So we always gonna come back to those same fundamental problems. We always gonna come back because we're not healing. We're not healing the fundamental issues, and we just creating a policy. We creating a whatever to try to, contain, chaos. Right? So are those things important? Yes. But ultimately, the Buddha said, you can't heal nobody else if you sick.
Right.
So I think we have to acknowledge our own sickness, our own need for healing in every field of action that we are in.
Yeah.
That's why community groups break up. That's why marriages break up.
Yep.
That's why hip-hop beef happens.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's because of a lack of healing within our simple condition. And if we work on that, right, in at least simultaneous with the other things that need to happen, right, I think we're dealing with it at the core. Because getting more youth in here is just bodies.
Yep.
What are we sharing, in that conversation is more important than how many youth are in here.
And one of the things we saw, I haven't seen Stic in a long, long time in the physical. And it's, online you forget how long it's been since you ain't seen somebody. Right. And so when I saw, I was like, he's like, eons, And then he was asking me how I was doing. And one of the first things I said to him is like, I am growing up. So here I am, a woman over 40. I just grew up. And there were times when I thought I was grown at 28, 29, 30. I was not grown. I just grew up. And my life, I know this conversation about young people, my life is filled with young people all the time, almost so much I had to make myself be around people my age or closer to my age because 19-year-olds are in my living room waiting, you know, to rhyme and talk about their relationships and their life issues and stuff like that. But I do think the healing that Stic speaks to, we gloss over it too much. And then there are too many of us that pretend like we're well. And I know adults who desire to be in loving relationships who then go on social media and talk about how happy they are being single or why they won't date. And so you can't have an authentic conversation with this woman that, no, you don't date, not because you're so happy, but because you are so afraid of being hurt again. But if I say that, somehow I'm judging or I'm hating because we're not having truthful, authentic conversations about where we really are. And so I think that there is healing. There's so much healing. I'm dealing with health issues. I have friends who were concerned that I was too happy. So because I have a health issue and I'm supposed to not be happy, and you're so light about this. So because I'm standing in the light and standing in my power and I'm walking faith-filled, that these religious people are now questioning my sanity. And so for me, I didn't realize I had so many sick people who were close to me. Like there's something mentally wrong with you if you think it's wrong to be happy, that you got to break down to get well. I think that on so many levels, and I look at the number of people I know who are political leaders and community activists who have serious financial troubles that they're not dealing with. And I know because I'm straight, I'm a poet to the heart. I'm so transparent. My loved ones get real uncomfortable. I'll tell you about my colon health and everything, but that's another story. But they're not dealing with it. But every day they spend 2 hours on Facebook and another hour on Twitter talking about Trump and Clinton, whatever. Like, yo, you don't have the luxury to do that, yo. You know what I mean? Like, buy a home. You got 2 kids. And I have revolutionaries who I'm close to and I love so dearly. And I'm like, they don't have a college plan. And their kids are like 7 and 14. And when I bring it up, here comes Toni again. You know, but there's not enough authentic dialogue. And I think that we do need more spaces. A few of the mature, spiritually divine youth who are supposed to be in the room will be there. But what are we sharing with them if our shit is not tight and not together and not on a high vibration? And
there's almost no better way to close out our conversation. What I want to frame is like, look, Mike, David, Stic, Toni, these conversations are so important, and the easiest thing to do is to walk away and never talk about this again. I think it is so important. What I've taken away from this conversation is that we need to be doing a lot more of this with a lot more people. That if whoever is listening to this, go have this conversation back. You know, when you have dinner or tomorrow morning, go talk to other people and see how they feel about it, because we don't have to agree on everything. But if we don't have discourse, if we don't have that authentic discourse, if we don't use the platforms that we have to say something, then we'll never have these conversations.
Absolutely.
It will always become just a big cipher of ooh and ah. And I really have gained so much perspective from each and every one of you that you could have we could have kept this conversation going forever. And I want to end on that, in that this is exactly, to your point, how the Constitution of the United States was written.
Absolutely.
That the Constitution of the United States was written by a bunch of 18, 25, 30, 40, and 60-year-olds that got in a room illegally.
Yeah.
They were not elected officials. They got together and said, we give a damn about our country. We don't agree on everything. But if we don't utilize our voice and our strength to do something about it, then our future is lost. And I think we're at that Renaissance moment again, where I see y'all as pioneers for those conversations, and I hope you keep having them and over and over and over again. So I know we got to close out, but he will punch me in the mouth. So what I would like is just with one thing, one sentence. Toni, if you can kick us off. A lyric or something that has stuck with you. Just close us out on something that we can remember. I've seen her spit before. She is incredible on the spot.
But you said one line.
I know who I'm on the panel with as well. Right.
So I think what we're closing at, what the sister talked about, she brought up young people, and when you bring up young people, you're talking about our present and our future. And I would just, I don't have one line, y'all. Like, you get it.
I got one line. I've heard a few times. In matters of young people, and in matters of revolution, anything you say you want to do, don't say it, do it. Stop saying it to young people, do it and show them, right? Don't speak it, show it.
Show it. Stop
speaking about what you used to do, show them what you're currently doing. And stop trying to instruct and educate. There is a difference. So instead of instructing, do this, educate and get them to ask why so they figure out to do it themselves. That's it.
That's it. That's right there.
Last remarks?
Yeah, add on to that. I think that's powerful. A message I would leave is be present in family. Commit to daily self-growth. And fill your tank up so you have more to share in the work that you do.
Absolutely.
I would say, in kind of keeping on this theme, is do the work.
Absolutely.
Be aware that it is work.
Absolutely.
Because I think that oftentimes we get confused and think things are supposed to be easy. Freedom takes work. Freedom's not free.
Absolutely.
Do the work and be there.
Absolutely.
Bro, do the inner work. Don't be afraid of the inner work, the inside work. There are a lot of people grinding right now, and then they hit walls, and they keep hitting the same wall over and over again because they're not doing the inner work. And that means the wall in your business idea, the wall with the project you want to launch, the wall in terms of you having the relationship you want to have, the wall in terms of having the body you want to have, the wall in terms of you being able to heal that connection with your mother or your father that was broken. If you don't do the inner work, it will never, ever change, and you will die with it carrying on your head and on your spirit.
Can y'all join me in thanking Toni, Stic, Mike, and David?
Love you. Thank you.